everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. I'm so excited today. The Oscars are coming up this weekend. We know that, but we have the much better awards happening today. We have our awards that we're giving out for all different kinds of fun superlatives that if the Oscars used these categories, they would be way more fun. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and my friend Conrado is here. We've done this the last couple of years. It's really fun. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's always my pleasure.
Yes. So, well, let's just dive in. We got a bunch of categories, and you and I, we have very different opinions on a lot of different things, but this is just going to be a lot of fun. And so let's dive in. Our first category is the best blockbuster of the year, and the word blockbuster can mean different things to different people. And a lot of these, I admit, I ended up having two choices because I just couldn't decide. But what is your favorite blockbuster that you saw of 2020?
Okay, so I am glad you said blockbuster can mean different things to different people, because I had trouble kind of deciding what a blockbuster should be for this category, partially because what we would typically think of blockbusters of this year, like your Star Wars, your Avengers, I didn't really love those. So I was trying to find an alternative, and I was toying with like getting a movie that is like very popular and made a lot of money, but it's not really what we would call a blockbuster, I guess, as my pick. And at the end of the year, I saw a Bollywood movie, or rather an Indian movie. I don't think it qualifies as Bollywood technically, but the point is, I saw it on Amazon Prime. It was a 2019 release in India, and it is, I think, unquestionably a blockbuster. And it's called Saira Narasimha Reddy. And it is a absolutely crazy movie, almost as crazy as the one that you love, which one's that? Bahubali 2? Yeah,
Yes.
It's much more violent, so I don't know if it's going to be up your alley. There's like quite a bit of blood, but it's basically the story of this guy, Narasimha Reddy, who is like some sort of freedom fighter in 19th century India. And it's basically a story of his life, but it's not really what we think of as a biopic. It's much more like if this guy who actually existed is treated like he's John Wick or something, you know what I mean? He's like this superhero who's able to like defeat all the British, evil British soldiers, one of which looks like Christian Bale, and he just like, decapitates them and fights with everyone, and this incredible action choreography, absolutely bonkers action and violence. It's a very nationalistic movie, I get the sense, from an Indian perspective. But you know what? We have a lot of nationalistic movies in America that are very popular, so why not? I went with Saira.
That's really cool. Actually, Bahubali is pretty violent. You do have some decapitations and things like that in Bahubali. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I felt the same way. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't pick it as my favorite, but I felt the same kind of thing with The Wandering Earth, as far as like seeing something that's spectacle and big and bombastic and kind of Michael Bay from a Chinese perspective, and it's sort of that nationalism I thought was fun and refreshing and different, and so I totally get that. So would you not consider Little Women a blockbuster?
This is a good question, because I was thinking Little Women, I was thinking maybe Us, which I also loved, as blockbusters, because they made a lot of money. And there was a time in which a blockbuster is just a movie that makes a lot of money, and not necessarily a movie with a bunch of visual effects and stuff. But because both of those movies I was going to mention in other categories that we'll see later, I decided to go with this one.
Very good. Very cool. So my answer for this one is Avengers Endgame. I really loved it. I thought it tied everything together so well from the different movies. It made different movies that I didn't think were the best. It made them actually matter in a way that I thought was really well done. And I just loved the ending for Tony and Steve. I thought was perfect. And the Avengers Assemble was such a great moment that just made you want to cheer. To me, it didn't feel like 3 hours. I just really enjoyed every time I saw it, and because I love these characters and I love the world, and I thought they they had an incredibly tough task of kind of wrapping up these 22 movies, and I thought they did just about as good as anybody could do for it. And so I really enjoyed it. That's definitely my favorite blockbuster. And then I know you don't agree, but I really enjoyed Ford v Ferrari. I thought that the racing was really good. I thought the relationships was really good. It was really a story about friendship, and that I enjoyed. And I thought it was a really fun, just sort of spectacle entertainment of the races. These were kind of spectacle entertainment. So I enjoyed it. So that would be my two choices for best blockbuster.
Yeah, I won't comment on Ford v Ferrari, but I will agree at least a little bit with you about Avengers Endgame. I don't think I like it as much as you, but I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed it and how much it made me feel like this whole Marvel Cinematic Universe thing was actually paying off in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk best indie. And there were a lot of indies that I really enjoyed, and I am going to cover some in different categories. But I really loved Blinded by the Light is my favorite. I don't know if Blinded by the Light and Parasite were if you count Parasite as an indie. I don't know, but I really loved Blinded by the Light. I thought it had such I thought it really captured the experience of becoming a fan when you're a fan of something, when you're in high school, when you're a teenager, and it's just that when you become kind of borderline a little bit obsessed with it, and it just that experience of being kind of something making you just really connecting with something when you're young, and it really captured that for me so well. And it was such a joyous film. I'm not even that big of a Springsteen fan, but I just loved the way they staged the music. I loved the way they did the themes with family, and I liked all the performances. I thought it was funny. I just loved it, and so that's my favorite.
All right, I haven't seen that one still, but as far as my indie pick, I was indie. I feel it's also another word like blockbuster. Like, how do you define it? What does it mean? So I just looked at my top 10 list, and I decided to go with the movie that I love the most, which I think is the most independent, the most like that was probably the hardest to find the money to make it, and that it feels like it has that spirit of like an alternative to what we usually see in the theaters, and that would be the movie Atlantics, directed by Mati Diop, who is a French director. This is her first feature film, and it's about takes place in Senegal, and it's about this young woman whose boyfriend sets out to on a boat to try to get to Europe and get better work, and then he doesn't return, or maybe does he? It's kind of a story. It's kind of a ghost story. It's kind of a zombie story. It's kind of a it's a social realism thing, but also like with magical touches to it. It is, to me, a very, very unique movie. I didn't see a movie quite like it this whole year, and it's a very, very touching coming-of-age story. I really recommend it. It's available on Netflix right now, so anyone who has Netflix can watch it.
Cool. Yeah, good. I haven't heard of it. I mean, I'd heard you talk about it, but I haven't seen it. Very cool.
That's right. We talked about it on our other podcast, which everyone who's listening to this can go over and listen to, the Criterion Project, in which Rachel and I every other week look at one of the movies in the Criterion channel, in the Criterion collection, and talk about it. It's a lot of fun, so please go check that out.
Yeah, definitely. So our next category is Best Animation, and I did love Toy Story 4, but my favorite was Klaus.
Ding,
Klaus.
Ding, 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 ding. It's the first time we're aligning.
I loved Klaus. I mean, it's like they had made somebody put all the stuff I like into a thing,
Yeah,
and it was just like, okay, I mean, I love Christmas movies. I love 2D animation. Just all of the different things.
absolutely.
I
It
loved.
just had to be a musical to make it to round it up.
Yes, that's true. But and I'm excited this year. In this fall, we're getting from Netflix, from animator Glenn Keane is making I think it's going to be 2D animated musical for Netflix, which I'm
Oh, great.
so excited about that.
Hmm.
But anyway, I just loved Claus. I thought that that it had that the character who becomes our Santa Claus, that I thought that he was more wounded than I was expecting, and I just felt for him. I loved the way the movie used lighting to kind of show the characters as they sort of thaw out from these feuds that they're
Hmm.
having, and start to change, and the kids especially, as they begin to learn how to read, learn how to, and I loved you kind of have a similar journey to that like Cusco has, and I definitely got some feelings from Emperor's New Groove at times.
Hmm.
But I thought it was really funny. I just loved it. I thought it was so good. My favorite movie of the whole year.
Oh, wonderful. Definitely my favorite animated movie of the year. And it's also my pick for best
Mm-hmm.
animation. Gorgeous movie to look at. Absolutely incredible design, lighting, animation, character design, character animation. I think it's just wonderful. Director is Sergio Pablos. He is just doing something really special. I'm glad that you mentioned Emperor's New Groove. I think this is definitely that's another favorite of mine, and I feel like this
Mm-hmm.
fits with that
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Yeah.
I think the comedy is spot on, and the heart, like you're saying, like all the emotions at the end of the movie also hit me very
Mm-hmm.
hard. I love Klaus.
Yeah. It was so good, and it's definitely going to become a favorite of mine every year to for sure watch
Mhm.
at Christmas, which
Yeah.
is very exciting for me.
And it's becoming a little bit of an Oscar frontrunner, right? Like unexpectedly, it's starting
Yeah,
to win the Annie Award, the BAFTA, and now on Sunday maybe it'll take Best Animated Feature. I'm crossing my fingers
oh,
because I would be really
me
happy.
too. I would be thrilled if that was the case. It would, oh, I'd be so excited. So yeah,
We will see.
we'll have to see. Uh, so next we have Best Indie Animation. I don't know if you were able to see any of the smaller films just outside of Claus this
I
year.
saw I saw a couple. I saw I Lost My Body, which was pretty good. I liked the stuff with the hand.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of Weathering with You, which is the other one. Other
Mm-hmm.
than that, I didn't see that many. So I decided to go with, I don't know if you think this counts as indie, but it's a short film that was crowdfunded, which I think
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty indie, and it's a
Yeah.
Hair Love, which is also
Mm-hmm.
nominated for an Oscar in animated short. And it's this little short about
Yeah.
a dad and trying to do his daughter's hair. And it's very lovely,
Mm-hmm.
directed by Mark Cherry. And I thought it was very
Yeah.
cute.
I loved that short. It was so good. So yeah, very good choice. I would also be so excited if they win
Me
the
too.
Oscars. I mean, I loved Kip Bull. The
Yeah, that's
that
pretty good
was really
too.
cute. I have two that I wanted to talk about. The first one is called Promare, and I this movie isn't for everybody. It's very like if you have any kind of like photosensitivity, it throws a lot at the screen, and it will be too spastic for some people. But I thought it was exhilarating. The animation is very geometric and just kind of wild, which I thought was really stunning. I loved the animation, but I also thought the story was really good. It's set in this futuristic world where the people are taught to hate this group called the Burnish, which are kind of like the X-Men, sort of like they have mutant kind of powers, and so there's a whole sort of army unit kind of that their whole task is to find and kill the Burnish,
Mm,
and the lead character has been taught this his whole life, and then he ends up in a situation where he has to interact with the Burnish, and he starts to realize, oh, maybe the things I've been taught aren't correct about this group. And so I thought it had an actual really good story, good characters, and just really exhilarating animation. So I highly recommend it if you can handle something that is kind of, like I said, a little bit throws a lot at the screen as far as the animation goes.
Do you know if it's available somewhere?
I don't. I'm not sure if you can rent it quite yet, but it actually did so well enough that they ended, because they did one of those like Fathom events for 2-3 days or whatever. Did well enough that they brought it back and did another weekend in December. So that was exciting, and I don't think it's out yet on streaming, but I think it will be soon. So something to definitely keep an eye out for, because if you watch the trailer, you'll immediately know this is for me or it's not for me. But I really enjoyed it. Then the other one that is available to rent right now or purchase is a little indie film called Funan. And we did it for this month's Obscure Animation, me and Stanford. And this is a beautiful film. It's quite devastating at times. It's set in Cambodia in the 1970s during the Khmer Rouge, and this family that is separated and forced to work in these labor camps that they had. And it is, like I said, quite devastating, but it is absolutely beautifully animated. I thought that it was very moving, and the ending is quite triumphant. It's a hidden gem from last year that's definitely worth checking out.
All right.
Yeah. So, all right, who do you think was the best director of 2019?
Okay. I thought 2019 was a really good year. I had a tough time narrowing these categories down, but I've decided to spread the wealth. So I'm going all over the place. And I do think that the director whose work I thought was the most perfect and the most like flawless was Celine Sciamma for Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Which is a movie that I saw at the New York Film Festival and had a very short qualifying run in December. It's opening unlimited release in more cities on Valentine's Day, and then it's expanding throughout the country. And I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful love story about a woman in, I think it's 18th century France or something like that. Maybe it's 19th century. I think it's 19th century, whatever. She is called into this island to paint the portrait of this like wealthy-ish young lady who's going to be married to an aristocrat from Italy. And so the girl doesn't want to get married because her sister was originally supposed to marry this guy. And she was a nun, and she's been pulled from the nunnery so she can marry for her family. And while this woman is painting the picture and trying to convince this woman to let her paint the picture, they fall in love. And it's a very interesting story, very lovely, very great. I mean, talking about the direction, I think it's a very exciting movie about the way in which Celine Sciamma kind of like almost every scene starts one way and then reveals itself to be another. Almost every shot. It's a story about how we see things and how we see each other. And so constantly we're seeing something, and it kind of like in a very subtle way kind of changes into something else throughout the movie, throughout almost every scene. And it's very, very exciting. I love that movie.
I'm excited to see it. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I've heard nothing but great reviews. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And for me, I have to go with Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. I think that movie is basically flawlessly directed.
Great pick.
It's incredible. And I didn't even realize that the whole house and everything was all on a set. Like, I had no idea until fairly recently that was the case, and that made me even admire it even more. It's so good. It's so good. So that had to be my pick.
Definitely. Bong Joon-ho, I just feel like he is kind of like this combination of like Alfred Hitchcock and Steven Spielberg. He is able to do like very artsy, very crafty stuff and also like super crowd pleasing, super engaging, like, you know, suspense and thriller and action and everything that you need. He's like the whole package. I love
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. I really do. I would be, it's probably going to go to 1917, but I would be really excited if it did pull out the win. I think
At
there's
the Oscars,
yeah, I think there's a chance it could, but
I think,
yeah.
yeah, for Best Picture,
Yeah.
I think so. I think Best Director is going to be a tougher nut to crack, but I think maybe Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I just posted my Oscar predictions on my
Mm-hmm.
blog, so
Oh,
I don't know when this
yeah.
episode's going to go out, but if it's before Sunday, people can go check them out. I am predicting Parasite will pull out the Best Picture win.
Oh,
I know it's a long shot, but we'll see.
yeah, I'd be so excited. I really would. So all right. Best actress. For me, this was easy. I have Jessie Buckley in Wild Rose. This was a movie that I loved. I it's really cool when this happens where I had just gone to the Art House Theater here in Salt Lake, and I just was made a day out of it, and I saw 3 movies that day. And this one, I hadn't heard anything about it. I didn't know anything about any of the actors or anything like that. But it just fit in between the other 2 movies. And the other 2 movies I ended up not caring for. Then I ended up loving this one. So it was just such a huge surprise for me. And I absolutely love the music. And Jessie Buckley's voice is incredible. She's so talented. But I thought she did such a good job of portraying this woman who, is holding on to this dream of becoming a country singer in Scotland, of all places, and then, but yet she still is trying to be a good mother, but she's just been out of prison, and so she has all of these sort of conflicting thoughts, and I thought that she did an amazing job, and it was a movie that I really loved. Wild Rose. Everybody should watch it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm so upset I haven't seen it yet. I've heard nothing but great things about it and people raving about Jessie Buckley and the songs in the movie. So I do want to catch up with it.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see that she's getting more work, and I just think she has huge potential, both in music and in as an actress. So,
did you love her in Judy?
She was probably my favorite part. Yeah, she was in Judy. She she's in a movie that I saw at Sundance called Iron Bark, which I think will do pretty well. And then she was in Dr. Dolittle, but hopefully that won't hurt her too much. But I just love her. I think she's amazing. So that would be my choice. What about you?
My choice is also no contest. For me, Lupita Nyong'o as just an incredible performance, playing a double role and just being absolutely terrifying and just incredible. I just think it's like an incredible piece of acting. I don't fully understand how it didn't get more awards attention, how it didn't get an Oscar nomination, just based on the fact that people who do these kinds of roles tend to be nominated, like Transformations and, Joaquin Phoenix and Joker.
Right.
I feel like she's running laps around him. And, just because the movie didn't have the same push, it just didn't happen. But I love her and I think she's great.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I mean, especially because she's playing 2 roles in the film, so that adds a whole nother layer to it. So yeah, it's definitely a good choice. It's probably just because it came out early in the year. It was just so stupid that makes a difference, but it seems to.
Yeah, and the horror thing. And I think at some point people just decided it wasn't Get Out and it was not going to win Best Picture, and they just didn't try that hard.
Right. So for Best Actor, I went with Matthias Schoenaerts in the movie Mustang. This movie is typically not the kind of movie that I would connect with, but I did very much because he's a really angry man. He's in prison and he has a lot of rage, and that's normally not an energy I connect with, but I thought that he managed to find the humanity in the role, and as he sort of changes with bonding with this horse, because it's all about this program in this prison that the prisoners work with training the wild mustangs, and obviously there's like a metaphor in him as kind of the wild mustang, the out of control. But I thought it was a wonderful movie, that another one that I think with the right kind of push could have done better at awards season. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. It is directed by a woman from last year, and I thought it was a really good film, and I thought he did such a good job bringing the humanity to the role.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that one either. Lots of stuff I have to catch up on after this episode.
It's impossible to see. I mean, I saw, including TV movies, I thought I saw 350 new releases in 2019, and there's still so many that there's still a ton that I haven't seen. It's just crazy. But who do you have as best actor?
Best actor, I gotta go Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems. My reasoning is not just that I think he's great in the movie and it's a movie that I love. You haven't seen it, have you?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if it will be something that you would enjoy. It's just a very stressful, very brash experience. But anyway, it's the kind of movie that I love. I think he's great in it. Also, this was my determining factor because there were some others that I really love. Other performances, Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory, for example, is incredible. But I decided Sandler just because I couldn't imagine the movie working the way it does if another actor had done it. Right. I think the fact that Sandler is the main character really brings the movie together and makes the movie. So I just had to go with him.
Very good. Very good. I've heard that he is really good in that role. So, okay. Then we have Best Ensemble Film. And for me, it's pretty clear I'd either go with Parasite or with Avengers Endgame. I thought were the best ensembles of the year.
This is half a ding, 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 because I definitely would go with Parasite. I think there's just no question for me. I think there are some other ensembles that I love, Hustlers, Little Women, but I think Parasite, the way those actors work together, it is just incredible. The fact that it's so hard for me to point to a favorite performance in that movie, it speaks to the fact that they're so, they're working so well.
Yeah, it's such a good ensemble, and the fact that they bring humanity to these characters that sometimes aren't very likable, and they don't treat anybody as sort of disposable. Like even the rich family aren't like these super snobs, in my opinion. Like I feel like I understand their perspective and who they are as people. And the poor people aren't just these, the poor family aren't just these sort of jerks. They have their perspective as well. So yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And I don't know, for me, the reason why I have to give Endgame a shout out is just the collection of actors that Marvel has assembled is one of I think even if you don't like the Marvel movies, it's hard to argue that the casting has not been excellent for their films, and just the whole Avengers Assemble moment with this whole cast of all these actors and all these people that I love was really well done. So anyway, then we have supporting actress, and I have to return to Wild Rose because I loved it so much, and Julie Walters was so good in this movie. The thing we've seen this so many times where you have the overbearing kind of dream squashing parental figure kind of role in this type of movie, but like in this case, her perspective totally made sense, which I really appreciated. And because she has been watching her grandchildren while Jesse's character is in prison, and she sees what this dream has cost her daughter and is continuing to cost her, and she she just wants to try to, for her to say, you're missing all of this time with your children. You're missing all of this time that's precious and you will not get again. Is this dream really worth it? Have we sacrificed enough as a family and and her sort of arc, she really does love her daughter, and she's not just some overbearing parent, which I just thought she did such a good job. And she's a really great actress. She's great in Paddington. She's great. I think she's great actually in the Harry Potter movies. I love her. And so, yeah, that's who I have to pick.
Great. Mm-hmm. Supporting actress for me, it's also another no-brainer. Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers, one of my favorite performances of the year. Probably the worst thing that's happened to me in 2020 so far, when she didn't get nominated. I just love her. I just think kind of like Sandler in Uncut Gems, I just feel like if she's not in the movie, then you know what I mean? It's just the thing that brings it all together to the next level. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's the perfect encapsulation of why Jennifer Lopez is a star, why people like her, what has made her so successful in her career. It's all here in this performance. And also an argument against the people who trashed her for so long, saying that she was such a bad actress. I think, and I thought for a long time, that it was more so that she didn't have the material to work with. And this is kind of the proof to that.
Yeah, she makes that movie for sure. There's no doubt about it. She is great in it. And I think that Florence Pugh in Little Women is, and I thought she was great. This is more of a lead role, but and I actually really loved Fighting for My Family.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was us. I mean, I love sports, underdog sports movies or that kind of a narrative. But I thought she was just excellent in it, and she had such a great year in
totally
2019. I didn't see Midsommar, but to have 3 standout performances in one year is pretty great.
Yeah, she would probably be my runner-up for supporting actress, Florence Pugh in Little Women.
Yeah,
I think she's great.
Very good. All right, supporting actor. I have an actor named Zach Gottsagen, who plays a role in The Peanut Butter Falcon, which was a movie that I loved from this year. Shia LaBeouf is also great in it. But basically, Zach, he has Down syndrome. This is the first movie to really star somebody. I mean, maybe it's a little bit of a stretch for supporting, but anyway, it was one of the first to star somebody with Down syndrome. But it's not a patronizing film like it could be. It's just a really sweet little road trip movie where Zach and Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson are basically on a raft floating down the river, trying to find this 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 wrestler guy that Zach has admired for a long time, and I just loved it. I thought it was a great little movie, and I thought that his performance was really wonderful. And I actually got to interview the directors and writers, and it's really cool because their friend Zach just had all the training, really wanted to be an actor, but he wasn't getting any roles. Nobody would hire him. And so they were like, okay, let's make a movie. And so they wrote a movie for their friend and they made it. And I think that's really cool. And it was actually a surprise little hit. It made over $20 million for a small indie. I think that's pretty cool. And
that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah. And so I really loved The Peanut Butter Falcon, and I loved his performance in it. It was really good.
Mm-hmm. I just found out he's going to be presenting at the Oscars, so looks like hopefully he'll have a great career after this.
I hope so. He did a really good job. What do you have as supporting actor?
So my supporting actor is a bit of a cheat because it's one actor, 2 performances, and I'm talking about Mr. Chris Cooper in Little Women and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I think he was just uh, we have a later category which is tearjerker, and I think my pick for tearjerker is also Chris Cooper. I think he's just the guy who made me cry this year. Um, in Little Women, he plays the,
Mhm.
you probably remember his name better than I do.
Mr. Lawrence.
Mr. Lawrence, with his relationship with Beth and the piano when he sits on the stairs. Oh my God, I'm
Mhm.
getting choked up already. And in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, he is playing the father of the Matthew Rhys character, who is basically
Mhm.
who has a really tough relationship with his father, and it's Mr. Rogers kind of like helps him have a better relationship. I think Chris Cooper is doing great work. I think with you know
Mhm.
truly supporting performances that are like limited in screen time, he just does the most that he can with them, and he hits it out of the park.
Yeah, he's a great actor, no doubt about it. He's really, really good. All right, very good choice. And you could say, I think Tom Hanks does a good job as Mr. Rogers, a supporting role.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think he's great.
Hmm. Okay, so then we have the best score. For this one, I have to go with Promare because one of the things I didn't mention is the way they use the music with the visuals in Promare is perfect. It's so good, and the score it combines sort of electronic music with traditional orchestrations in a really cool way. It's very good. But then for a more traditional choice, I would go with Little Women. That was really great score.
I love the Little Women score. Um, I guess this is the part in which we're gonna go around some technical awards that we want to give, right?
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I think.
what do you have? I have a
Think so.
couple because I mean I have a best score pick. I love the Little Women score. I also love the Marriage Story score. But if we want to go back and forth with some other technical stuff,
Hmm.
I like you said before, the production design. I think Parasite, the fact that they built not just the rich family's house, but also the poor family's house, and they
Right.
made it in a huge set. They're just perfect spaces, and you can tell they're designed because it's like just the fact that for the it's the upstairs downstairs sort of thing put into explicitly into the design almost, right? Like to go to
Hmm.
the rich family's house you have to go up a hill, and then you have to go up the stairs, and everything is up up up. And for the poor family you have to go down into the like basically the sewers of the city, and then like go into the underground, and like even the toilet is like further up than their house, and like in the bathroom. I just think that's like an incredible amazing detail. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you there. Then best song is my next one. And I have Glasgow from Wild Rose, which was such a great song, and I wanted it to be nominated so bad, but it wasn't.
Mm.
And then I loved Lost in the Woods from Frozen 2. I thought it was so funny, and I thought it was such a great song. And so those would
Mhm.
be my picks for best song.
Yeah, I agree with you. Lost in the Woods is probably my favorite of the Frozen 2 songs.
Hmm. It was
Um,
so funny to me.
yeah.
So did you have a song or
I don't have a song, but I do
okay?
have a double mention for the same movie for Hustlers. I think the costume design and the editing in Hustlers, I was
Mm,
really impressed. I feel like for me, it's one of the best edited movies of the year. Just the way it moves, and goes back and forth, and it just like keeps moving. I like my roommate was watching it the other day, uh, and I just was walking by, and I watched like 5 minutes, and then like before I knew it, the movie was over, and it was just I had seen the whole thing just because it moves so flawlessly.
hmm. Yeah.
And for the costume design of that same movie, I would say just like an incredible time capsule of the time in which takes place. I feel like it takes place like around 08, 2011, and which doesn't feel super period, but like this movie argues that just with like some subtle stuff you can totally place in 8, 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like even though the fashion hasn't changed that much, there's enough that you can tell, oh, this is 2008. And I really loved it.
Yeah. Very good. I agree. So my if I were gonna pick my favorite costumes, I would pick actually a surprise, even though I didn't give the movie fresh. The costumes in Maleficent, Mistress of Evil were really,
Mm.
really impressive. And I thought the movie was kind of bonkers. I was really close to fresh. But anyway, they were really good to
Great.
me. And so then I have visual effects, and I would give it to Avengers Endgame. I thought was just really great visually, especially Avengers Assemble was really great. And then I would give second place to 1917 for visual effects for me. But what category do you have next for technical?
I think that's it for me.
Okay. So best screenplay. I don't know if you have that.
I do have that.
Okay.
And for me, the best screenplay is Little Women. I just
Yeah.
think it's a great adaptation. I had never read the book. I didn't know any of the previous adaptations, but just going into it, I was not lost at all. I know some people think that the time jumping was confusing, but I didn't. I could follow perfectly. And just hearing about it later, about the people who were telling me the differences and how the movie changed the characters and the arcs, I think I was even more impressed. I really, really loved the fact that it was not just an adaptation of the book, but also in some ways it feels to me an adaptation of Greta Gerwig's relationship with the book, which I think was also really cool.
I agree. That would also be my choice for adapted. And then for the original screenplay, I would go with Parasite, again, for all the reasons we've discussed.
Yeah.
So
An incredibly tight screenplay. I just want to say, like, it's so well done.
Right. Okay. Then for best, these are, now we're going to get into some of our just fun, silly ones. And so, so best duo, again, I have Zach Gottsagen and Shia LaBeouf in The Peanut Butter Falcon. I just loved them. It was really good. Did you have a best duo?
Do they play brothers, friends?
No, they're just friends. They meet. He's escaped from this. He's basically forced to live in this nursing home because he doesn't have any guardians to take care of him. Doesn't and even though he can function, but it's just one of those things. And so he escapes from this nursing home, and he happens to meet Shia LaBeouf's character, who's kind of on the run, I guess, from this man he owes money to, and so they end up kind of Huckleberry Finn style on this raft, going down this river to try to get to this wrestling school that he wants to go to. And Dakota Johnson is kind of his caseworker at the nursing home. And so, yeah, it's kind of that type of story.
Great. I also picked a couple of friends. In my case, it's Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It's a good choice.
I love Brad Pitt, and I think he's incredible in this movie. I don't love Leonardo DiCaprio, but I do think this is one of his best performances. I was really impressed. And I love them together as like just two giant movie stars hanging out with each other. The rapport that they have, they both looking cool, but also like kind of pathetic in certain moments. I feel like it was perfect. I think it was great for a movie about Hollywood to have these two together at the center.
That's a good one, for sure. All right, so we have Best Kiss. This was easy for me. It's more of like an ending sequence that ends with a kiss. Is the can I hold your purse? Moment in like Always Be My Maybe. I just loved that whole scene. It was so good when he stops her on the red carpet and he gives this little speech and he just says, Can I hold your purse for you? I just want to be with you. I loved it so much. It was so good.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was very cute. Okay, my pick for Best Kiss, Pain and Glory, the Almodovar movie, which I liked a lot, but I didn't love as much as other Almodovars, and I want to revisit because of that. I feel like I want to see it again just to see if it grows on me in the second time. That being said, I think there are specific sequences that are just incredible in the movie, and one of them, have you seen it yet, Rachel?
I did see it.
Okay, so I'm talking. So the scene in which the old lover played by Leonardo
Yeah.
Sbaraglia, comes over to his apartment, and they have this talk about like how their lives have changed. The kiss that they have at the
Yeah.
end of that, I just feel like it's just wow. It's like I felt so many things in that moment. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie, and that kiss, you just like seal the deal.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. That's a really good one. That's a good choice. Okay, then we have biggest laughs, and I know a lot of people didn't respond to this movie, but I guess it's just maybe because I podcast about rom coms all the time. But I thought that "Isn't It Romantic" was really funny,
Oh,
just in all of the Easter eggs for all these romantic comedies that I love. There were so many, even in her costume, in her dresses, different things. But I don't know. I just thought it was really funny. I thought that Liam Hemsworth as this, sort of the dream guy. I thought that he was willing to poke fun at himself,
hmm.
and made me laugh. And I thought Rebel Wilson was funny, and it's just it's kind of a satire about romantic comedies, and I really liked it. I thought it was very funny, and then I also uh, I also thought the Angry Birds. I thought it was really funny. It's not a great story. It's not the best plot. The animation's
Right.
serviceable, but I thought it made me laugh a lot. I enjoyed it. So those are my
Good.
two favorite.
You know what? I'm glad to hear that, because for me, it was not a particularly good year for comedies. I feel like I didn't. The ones that I saw were fine, and then like like outright comedic movies, I didn't see that many that I actually loved.
Mm-hmm.
So what I decided to do for biggest laughs is go to the funniest, not movies, but the performances that made me laugh the most.
Mm,
And I ended up being a tie between Kiki Palmer in Hustlers, who I think is just hilarious. She plays one of the members of the gang.
mm-hmm.
Um, and the other one is Florence Pugh in Little Women, who I also think, I mean, she's very touching as Amy, but I think when she plays young Amy, she's so funny. I think like, and I think it's such a smart idea to play the character as funny, so that she's not as annoying, so that we understand that she's just a girl, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
she still has some growing up to do.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I think that Aquafina is also pretty funny in The Farewell. Like she brings some humor to that
Oh
role.
yeah,
I mean, it's not
more of
like
an
a
awkward humor, but yes.
yeah, it's not like
Hmm.
a laugh out loud kind of humor,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
I thought she brought humor to the
Totally.
role. So it's
Yeah.
a very very good
Oh,
choice.
and
Uh,
while we're at it, I just want to mention also one of the funniest performances for me of the year in just one scene is the woman who plays the caseworker in Marriage Story, who comes to
oh
visit
yeah,
Adam Driver's house. I think she was just so funny.
yeah,
I She's just so weird, and the way she talks, I think that's also a really great scene, and she was
yeah,
so funny in it.
yeah, very good. Okay, most rewatchable. For me, I have definitely Blinded by the Light is just so effervescent and so cheerful and wonderful. That would be one for me. And then the other that I have is the Downton Abbey movie. I thought was so well done. I mean, it is just kind of a longer episode of the. It's kind of like watching one of the Christmas episodes,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I liked it. I love the show, and so of course I love the
Right.
movie, and I just really liked all the character arcs, and I thought the script was really well done, and I really enjoyed it. It was one of my best memories of going to the movies in 2019. My friend had this amazing party where we all dressed up and in the 1920s or whatever attire and or turn and then we all she had like different like a whole tea and it was really fun and then we all went to the movie together and so that was a really fun memory plus I just love the show so I love the movie.
Great.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's a show that's made to be rewatched. So I think
Hmm.
a movie that fits perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, um, I don't know. There's a I this year I have seen more movies more than once in the theater than usual. I
Hmm.
saw Parasite twice. I saw Uncut Gems, Hustlers. I saw twice. But I think at the end of the day, the movie that I probably am going to rewatch the most throughout my lifetime is probably Little Women. So I have to go with that.
Yeah, that's a good choice. All right, tearjerker. And for this one, I found 1917 very moving. I really cried a lot in Avengers Endgame. But if I was going to pick, I would probably pick The Farewell as the
Oh yeah.
tearjerker of the year. Especially me losing both my grandmas last year. And so watching the movie about saying goodbye to your grandma was
Mhm.
very emotional for me. And so I have to pick that as the best tearjerker of the year.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And I would say for me, I mean, I kind of revealed it already. It's the Chris Cooper duo. It's not necessarily just the Chris Cooper parts, although those made me cry. But A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and Little Women, I've found both of those movies to be very, very emotional experiences for me, and I connected a lot. I connected with uh, sort of like the whole message of Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood about like how hard it is to be a good person, that it's just not that you're good, that you actually have to put in the work and you're never going to be perfect. Like you see it in the Mr. Rogers character, how he himself has his own issues. I really love that message. And I love in Little Women, I connected, I feel like everybody does, but I connected a lot with Joe as someone who is like, you know, a playwright and a theater director and is trying to make it in the city and is trying to be creative and doesn't feel like, you know, you feel like sometimes people don't really respond to your stuff and how you're going to do it and whatever. I just connected so deeply with her arc. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a good one. Very good. And just for the record, the really great movie, in my opinion, that I saw at Sundance for this year, that is total tearjerker, is a movie that's going to be on Netflix. People should check out. It's called Dick Johnson is Dead, and
Oh.
it's a documentary about. It was a very creative documentary about the director kind of exploring the aging of her father, and I don't know, it really hit me, and I cried a lot. It was really
Wow.
good. It was also quite
Mhm.
funny at times too. It was I really enjoyed it.
Right.
Okay, so the best date movie. So I think that the best kind of movie to go to a date with is something that's a little bit scary, but not
Mhm.
like horror terrifying. And so you just cuddle up and you watch this kind of scary movie, this little scares. So for me, no movie did that better this year than Crawl, with
Oh,
the
all
the,
right.
the
The
character.
alligator movie.
Yes, these
Nice.
characters fighting the gators. I just thought it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it, and I think it'd be perfect date movie. And then I know you weren't a fan, but I think the Knives Out would be really fun to go on a date with, because then you could talk about the case and talk about the mystery and the different characters and on the date. And so that would be my second choice.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think the best movie to see on a date is obviously a romantic comedy, and so I think you have to go with Midsommar, the best romantic comedy of the year,
Yeah.
about a relationship that is totally fine and totally works out in the end, and everyone's happy.
All right. So the best action sequence for me, I've said it like 5 times, but Avengers Assemble was my favorite. But then I also, for a smaller one, the movie Shadow this year was really incredible. And there's all of these scenes. I mean, every action scene in the movie is amazing. But they have all of these. There's this particular scene where they all fight with these umbrellas made of blades, and so
Oh, nice.
you have the martial arts fighting, but you have this additional thing with these blades. The cinematography was amazing in the movie. It's a really good movie.
Mhm.
That I think if I was going to say something underrated, I would probably say Shadow.
Mhm.
But definitely, it's a really
Yeah.
really great actions.
I really want to see that, and I think it's on Netflix now or
Mm-hmm.
somewhere streaming. So I do want to catch up with that. It sounds really cool. Um, my action sequence is actually a tie.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. The first one is the moon chase sequence in Ad Astra, which I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Just very exciting. The rovers on the moon, like shooting at each other. And the other one is the opening action sequence in John Wick Chapter 3,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm starting to get a little colder about the John Wick movies. I think just the guns. I just don't think guns are as exciting to see on screen. I mean, there's some other stuff like, I don't know, like the politics or whatever. But let's leave that aside for a moment. I just prefer action sequences that are like either chases or like swords or something like that. I feel like shooting at each other is not super exciting. So the opening of John Wick, he doesn't have a gun, so he has to be like, crafty about like what he's gonna use to like fight with these people, and he like, he beats a person up with like a book in a library and things like that, and then he rides a horse, and it's kind of crazy. So that whole section, I was super into it, and then the movie kind of like, I didn't enjoy the rest of it as much, but the opening sequence was just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen it, so but I've heard good things. Okay, so then best musical moment. I've already talked about Lost in the Woods and Glasgow, how much I love them, but I also loved the various musical set pieces in Rocket Man. I thought it was such a creative way to tell a biopic and to use the songs to describe his life versus the order in which they were written. But even just I would say if I had to pick one, even just that opening number, the opening,
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was really creative and I really enjoyed it. So that would probably be one of my picks for sure.
If I was going to pick one from Rocketman, for me it would be the one in which he's playing, I think it's Crocodile Rock at the Troubadour, and he starts to float.
Yeah, I like that too.
That was so good. I thought that was my favorite. I also have a bunch of choices. There's the Jennifer Lopez introduction in Hustlers when she's doing Criminal. There's there's a scene in Portrait of a Lady on Fire that's by a fireplace. Not a fireplace, it's more like a bonfire.
Right.
And there's these women kind of singing, and it's like very, very like specific kind of chanting that it's very, very I don't know, it's very rousing. It's like it feels very different from the rest of the movie, which is so quiet, and then there's like this very loud singing. And also I have to say, now that you remind me of Always Be My Maybe, I do love the I Punch Keanu Reeves song.
Oh yeah,
that moment.
Yeah.
That was very funny.
That was really good. Okay, so then best animal performance. There was no doubt on Disney Plus, there's a little movie called Togo with William Dafoe, and it was such a welcome surprise. If you have access to Disney Plus, I highly recommend it. It really felt like a 90s live action Disney film, and the dog is so cute, and I really enjoyed it. A lot more than I thought. It was really good. So
yeah. I totally forgot about that movie, and I can't believe I haven't watched it yet, because it's the perfect movie for my wife, because she loves huskies. She loves Balto, the animated movie.
Oh, you'll see Balto in a whole new light.
Yeah,
I'll just say that.
she also loves Willem Dafoe, so it's perfect.
Oh my gosh, she's got to see it.
Yeah, I think she's gonna love it. Best animal performance turns out to be the Willem Dafoe category, because my pick is the seagull from The Lighthouse.
Oh yeah.
Which it ends up a little tragically for the seagull, but I think it was a great. It was just one of my favorite parts about that crazy movie.
Yeah, good one. There's also, if people like animal documentaries, check out The Elephant Queen. I saw it at Sundance in 2018, and 2019. And these people, they literally lived in the jungle for 7 years following these elephants, and it was pretty well done. Very good. So okay, almost done. So we have best young performer. For me, this was pretty easy. Julia Butters in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love her character on American Housewife. All the kids are I think it's a very underrated show, first of all. But then all of the kid casting on this show is really good. And she's great on the show. And I thought that she was so good. I could have almost seen her getting a Best Supporting Actress nomination for that, just those scenes with her and Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thought was excellent. And then I also loved Thomasin McKenzie in Jojo Rabbit. She was so great in Leave No Trace, and I'm really excited about her career. I think she has huge potential. She's such a lovely actress, I think. So those would be my choices.
Is she still a teenager? I was wondering, like, when doing this category, who's like, like what the cutoff would be for young.
Yeah, I don't know actually. She definitely plays a teenager in the film. So I guess that's why I thought of her. But yeah, I don't know how old she is. But definitely, I thought Julia Butters was so good.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with a movie that I don't like at all, but one of the few things that I do like about Jojo Rabbit is and now I forgot his name, the little kid who plays Jojo's friend. I think it's Archie.
So cute.
Yeah, he's just hilarious. The little fat kid with his British accent. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, so we do have most underrated as our last category. So these, for the most part, have really high Rotten Tomatoes scores for mine, but I just feel like maybe it's better to say underseen. But I thought that The Report was really good, and it just kind of got shoved out of theaters pretty quickly onto Amazon. I think I really liked it. And then I loved the documentary Maiden about the first all-women sailing crew in the race around the world. I loved it. It was one of my favorite of the year. And then I also loved a little movie called American Woman that didn't get much play, but I thought Sienna Miller did such a good job of playing this working class woman that has gone through this trauma. And it basically covers like 20 years of her life. And Christina Hendricks is really good as her sister. And I feel like that Hollywood has a really hard time portraying working class women as anything but sort of damaged goods, kind of, or they're like an Erin Brockovich type of character, kind of. But this was a full-fledged person, and so I really thought it was a good little movie, and that it should have gotten more play than it did.
All right, my underrated. I didn't even think about the Rotten Tomatoes score. I just looked it up. My underrated has a 61, which is technically fresh, but it's it's right on the cusp. So right. I think it counts. And that would be a movie that I really loved this year that didn't get the respect and didn't get the money it deserved, which is Alita Battle Angel, which I think it's just a great. It would also have been like my pick for blockbuster of the year, but I decided to put in the underrated because I want to make the case that people just didn't, people just weren't vibing with it when it came out. I feel like it didn't do that much money and the critics didn't get it. And because it's cheesy, I have to admit, in a lot of ways in the plot, but the visual effects and it's just such an exciting, such a creative movie visually and the action sequences. And I thought the lead performance by Rosa Salazar as Alita is just incredible. I think it's one of the best motion capture performances I've seen. She's so sweet and so relatable as a lead character. I really love that movie.
Yeah. I was in 61%.
All right.
I gave it a fresh, so
it's good to hear.
So I enjoyed that as well. So there we go. We did it. I think we talked about some really fun films, and so I'll put the list of these various categories in the description. So if people want to do their own videos or just in the comments section, if you want to leave your choices, that would be really fun. We'd hear it. And so, Conrado, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, and that would be at Coco Hits New York. You can go on my blog, which is cocohitsny.wordpress.com, if you want to see my Oscar predictions. And you can find me, obviously, on the Criterion Project, which I co-host with Rachel Wagner, the wonderful host of this podcast, in which we talk about the Criterion Channel and the movies that are available there. So please, check that out and subscribe.
Yeah. Yes, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So make sure you check that out. I just finished reviewing 26 films from Sundance Film Festival, so you definitely want to take a look at that. And I also have the Hallmarkies podcast, so check out that as well. We just finished our Hallmarkies Podcast Awards show
Oh,
over there, so definitely take a look at that. So
nice.
thanks so much. This was really fun, and so let's definitely do it again next year.
All right. Oh, we forgot to talk about cats. Oh, we
Oh
have to
yeah,
start over.
me talk about the
Most
the best
underrated.
animal performance. What were we thinking?
Oh boy.
So all right, well, we'll talk to you all later. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.